Greetings everybody and welcome to a scene 4 Vampire by Gaslight, our Victorian horror. This evening we open the scene in the Fortescue residence and Christian is standing outside his grandsire's door when knocking gently for her. He calls for her, calling her mother, but is informed by a servant that she's gone to stay with her friend the Lady Persephone for a few days. And feeling a little lost and frustrated, Christian makes his way back down to Angelique's room. He stops outside and we will find out whether the door is open or closed to him and start our scene. So Christian's standing outside Angelique's door. Is the door open or closed?
It will be closed when he arrives, but if he knocks on it, it will relatively soon be opened.
He knocks gently on the door.
And Angelique's maid will open it. Or one of them.
He steps past her, sort of not really acknowledging the maid, and into the room.
It looks like everything is a little bit topsy-turvy at the moment, because all the furniture is being moved and looked under and around, and walls are being examined. It's like spring cleaning, but it's not springtime.
Christian looks around and
Angelique will be sat in a chair observing and directing this organised chaos.
he looks around the room and puts his hands on his hips. Hardly enough room for a chap to lay his hat in here.
Well, I very much want to know how the individuals got into my room.
As do I. And he walks towards the wall. Inspecting it. Perception investigation. Most of the wall looks pretty safe. And he's looking at it for a few minutes before he notices a crack. Reaches into his pocket and digs out a small pocket knife, like a flick knife, and starts pushing the knife into the wall, to the crack. Wordlessly.
Angelique will just kind of watch.
He manages, after a couple of minutes of pulling the knife down, he manages to find the opening and peels back some layers of paint and wallpaper, and there's a little lock. And he crouches down on the floor and peers through the keyhole. He's not even in a position to see the bed. He jokes, trying to make light of the situation.
Well, we can be grateful for small privacies.
Starts to make a larceny roll, which isn't particularly his thing. And manages to pop the lock open after a few tries. And the door swings inwards and reveals a small, narrow corridor behind the walls. I believe this is what we were looking for.
Yes. Wonder how many of these tunnels he has.
There's only one real way to find out.
I'll get us a lamp. And she'll rush the servants off that are just about to rush to do just that for her. And just tell them to start reassembling the room. She pops downstairs and grabs a lamp and matches. And brings it back up.
Christian's standing there, and he runs his fingers over his
She also
moustache.
has a ball of twine. And we'll tie the end to the bed.
He raises an eyebrow at this.
As I said, we don't know how many of these tunnels he has. Do you want to get lost in there?
I could think of worse company for it, but I take your point.
Not to mention, you've seen what he was getting up to.
Christian's eyes dip slightly. You can tell he's trying to put a brave face on it, but the whole situation has made him uncomfortable, especially with the departure of the Duchess, who he would normally go to for moral support.
Let's just say, if we're going to be going into the labyrinth, and we're not sure about whether there is a Minotaur, we can at least take a ball of string.
He smiles slightly. You see, when others mock me of my decision to bring you into this life, I point them to these examples of situation to show how exemplary you are in many ways. Think of things that even my own mind could not ponder upon, and then wonder which one of us is the poser.
Neither. We'd need to bother posing for that.
He chuckles. Come on then.
And presumably together they're going to head down this tunnel.
Yes, it's less of a tunnel at first, more than a walkway that's been set up between the walls of the building. and it's quite claustrophobic. You have to walk single file. There's no way you can walk next to each other here.
Mhm.
And you'll notice as you go along that there aren't doors to every room, but there are at least vantage points and lookways where the room could be looked in upon. And seems to cover most of the house, the upper part of the house anyway. The servants' quarters aren't really much of his interest. And after a little while of walking, the corridor seems to get a little bit wider as it leads into a square block which houses a spiral staircase built into the floor. And you've seen this particular layout before. You know from your own experience of the layout of the house that the secret door that leads into this room, other than the corridor you've come in from, comes from Joseph's study or parlour. The staircase looks especially steep. And Christian peers down into it, into the depths below. I'm not much looking forward to what we're going to find down there, if it's anything like what we found in the sewers the other night.
I'm not particularly looking forward to it either. But if there is anyone or anything alive down there, I think it's best that we find out sooner.
Christian activates Auspex heightened senses and then starts to make his way down the staircase carefully because, well, he has Dex 4, so it's not really an issue for him. But a clumsy person or someone with low dexterity would probably have to make a check here. It's not slippery, but you know those kind of staircases. They're kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Walk down, and a little bit disorientating. They seem to plunge into the depths, like into the depths of hell, for a little while before they come to a close on the concrete floor. And it's very cold down here, even with your vampiric nature, you can feel the chill. And it seems to be less of a corridor rather than one large room that connects to another large room, and then another. This first room is plain, concrete floor, concrete walls, and contains only a few wooden bookshelves and cabinets which have books, a couple of jars, a couple of scrolls. Nothing of particular interest. Perhaps additional storage.
So Angelique will make her way to the next room.
The next room is the best way to put it. It is a medical room, but it's not to the scale that the lab was in the sewer. There's only one bed in here, and it's unoccupied. Surrounded by little torches on the wall and a few more bookshelves. and a cabinet which contains medical tools. There are remnants of spatters of blood on the medical table, but they look like they've been there for some time.
Angelique will look around carefully before moving further into the third room.
The door is quite heavy here. We move through. You're able to move it, but it takes a little bit more effort. Christian comes to help you. And the third room contains a desk with quill and ink and various correspondences. A book is open. Looks like it's been written in.
And presumably there is a jar on the desk as well.
Yes, there is. There are also several jars on the shelves in here that contain gruesome mutated limbs and organs.
But as gruesome and mutated as all the ones on the shelves might be, the one on the desk is very carefully made into a rose shape. Seems a bit unusual.
Do you have a heightened senses activated at the moment?
Nope.
Okay. Christian tilts his head to the side quickly while you're looking around the room. You notice him sort of seem as if he heard something. I don't think we're alone down here, so we should probably be quick.
Angelique will gather the various papers together. And the jar.
Christian inspects the jar. And they thought my art form was unusual.
Well, at least he seemed to have made something passably artistic, unlike his strange monsters.
Christian looks over the letters you're carrying. I guess we're going to have to go through these, present them as evidence.
Yes.
Right. One of the letters seems to be unopened and a little bit heavier than one would expect of paper. Christian looks to the final door. Should we?
Probably should. Yes. She'll put the stuff down to one side, ready to take it out.
Christian approaches the door and listens. Three successes with heightened senses. His gloved hand starts to turn the handle. And he pushes the door open very slowly. But as he gets the door far enough open to get through, you see a head of something come crashing through and try and looks like it tries to bite him. And it's snarling. But luckily all the dice. Unless I botched spectacularly, which I might have done. This thing misses him by a hair. We can't really quite see what it is. It looks like, imagine if you took all the skin off a dog. Like a pit bull type dog with its sort of oddly shaped head.
Yeah.
Christian closes the door, but you can still hear this creature snarling and scratching. He turns around to look at Angelique.
Well, that seems like more evidence. The question is if there's anything else back there.
Yes, but I think it'd be better to go in and put these creatures down as a group rather than try to attack them as an individual.
Very true.
They're probably hungry. If they work the same way that our retainers do.
Yes.
And with their master in danger, I doubt they're feeling particularly social. So, let's inform the sheriff about this and let the others do something about it.
Yes.
And he walks rather quickly away. There's a little bit of a camp walk.
Yeah.
Because he sort of walks himself away from the door thinking, I don't really want to go near there again.
Yeah. We should take a look at this correspondence, see if there's anything there.
Can we go back upstairs first?
Yes. She'll gather the stuff together.
He gives you a hand carrying a few of the things because there's probably quite a lot of letters. And someone needs to carry the torch as well.
Lamp, but yeah.
Lamp.
And the heart in a jar that's shaped like a flower.
Yeah. So, they make their way back upstairs. And back through Angelique's room. The servants have sort of disappeared off at this point.
Oh, I would have thought we could make our way out through Joseph's office.
Oh, we could? Yeah, I suppose we could.
And also check there for anything that might be relevant.
We can go, yeah, we'll go through Joseph's office and again, the door needs a bit of fiddling with because it doesn't have a key. Let's, well, okay. So Christian really easily picks the lock on this door, and pushes it open.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bit disappointed that I wanted him to put his fist in the wall or something, because that seems more fun. But he pushes the door open, and you're in Joseph's little office. It's a lot more kosher in here, though. Simple medical journals and the like.
Mm-hmm. And Angelique is going to start sorting her way through the letters.
There are... there's a diary which explains... Experiments diary, which out of character I'm going to actually write up.
Okay.
Can look at it. It goes through experimentation processes and failures and successes, including the trying to remove a heart from a vampire
Without killing it, yeah.
without killing it, which he cannot do, it seems. Failure after failure. But he feels that this heart that he has in his possession holds the key to that secret, but he's not sure what. Also, various animal experimentations that he's done, and experimentations he's done on students from the hospital.
Okay. And
Amongst the letters, there are some personal letters between him and it's between him and Beatrice, but she's not going to be named. She's going to use a pseudonym because she doesn't want her brother to find out, and oversee plot convenience. We'll work out the pseudonym later. But they are of a. I wouldn't say they're particularly scandalous in nature, but they are certainly flirtatious.
and presumably there's very little in the letters that even suggests whether she is a vampire or not.
No suggestion of that. They talk about. They talk a little bit about medicine, but mostly they're sort of flirtatious notes, messages. And then there are the letters from the Setites.
Yep.
And one unopened letter, which is sealed with wax.
Angelique is actually going to push the first of the letters from the Setites over towards Christian.
Christian picked it up.
Concerning. And it's going to say, we know that you are responsible for the theft. Return it, and we need say no more about it. That was the first one.
Yeah. Theft of what?
They get rather more threatening. She shows him some more, and does seem to say, if you do not return it, we will take things from you until you relinquish it. And then it moves on to, now that one has died, perhaps you'll take us seriously.
He raises a brow as he's reading.
2 down, and still you haven't returned it. How many more will you let suffer?
Christian makes an intelligence investigation roll. Could this be something to do with the deaths of the medical students?
It seems likely, given that they were his students, his best students.
Mm. So he has something that somebody else wants.
And it matches the writing on this one. She holds up the unopened one.
He reaches for it.
She'll hand it over.
He takes it and looks at the seal. Mm. And before opening the letter, he reaches for the paper first, but something tumbles out onto the floor, something hard that makes a thud. When you look down to the ground, you can see it looks like a onyx stone. It's not particularly big, but it glows and it makes contact with the floor.
Well, considering there's already been 3 curses, I don't think that seems very promising.
Christian takes a step back as soon as he notices it and says, "Don't touch that," reflexively before you start speaking.
What does
Feeling
the
glad
letter
that
say?
he always wears gloves.
What does the letter say? She'll ask.
He pores over it for a few moments. It takes him a little bit longer, you've noticed, to read than it does for Angelique. Perhaps indication that Christian was not as well educated in reading and writing. It says that for the loss, more strips of flesh need to be taken.
Well, I don't know who's responsible for sending these, but given the mystical nature, I think we know who we need to talk to about this.
Yes. I think that we need to take this artifact to them as well.
Or bring them to it. Not sure touching it would be a wise plan. Gloved or not.
Christian takes off his glove and looks at the stone curiously. Before dropping the glove on top of the stone. And you watch as the stone seems to become... It doesn't exactly start a fire, but that would cause a frenzy check or anything like that, but it does all of a sudden sort of glow, and then the glove turns into ash. You would imagine that if you touched that, it would do significant aggravated damage. And he sort of pulls a face that tells you, "I'm really glad that I didn't touch that."
Angelique is going to head to the door of the study. Marie! Marie! And presumably one of the maids will come scurrying over. I want you to get a bucket of water and keep it with you and keep an eye on that stone. Should it ignite the carpet or anything of that sort, you'll have the bucket of water handy.
She obviously looks a little bit strangely at you, thinking why on earth would a stone set the carpet on fire, as it was a coal, but she's not going to argue with her mistress, and goes to carry on her orders. I will send a urgent request to the Tremere and see who I can speak with on the matter. Though I don't think that Mr. Cooler will be my first point of call. She says with a little bit of a hiss in his tone.
Given the fact that he's already been affected by one of these curses, we might request that someone with a little more experience be sent.
Yes, I think Mr. Sir Trout mentioned to me that another Tremere in the city removed the curse. Or something, but to be honest, I wasn't listening. You know how Sir Trout rambles on.
Indeed.
I will have to...
Whoever is responsible for the removal of that curse clearly knows something more about the situation than Mr. Pulka.
Exactly, and I will endeavour to find this fellow and bring him along. And then Mr. Pulka can make his own estimations later on. I'm sure he has an opinion on everything. So, I'm sure we'll hear it.
Yes.
I'll go right away. You might want to get that room tidied up. I don't want to climb over everything tonight when I come in.
Yes, I'll get that sorted out.
Leave the letters here just in case.
Yes, she may be able to.
And that thing.
No, he may be able to discern something from them.
Christian points to the heart. Leave that down here.
Yes.
Don't really
It
want
was
to look
on the
at it.
desk, so clearly it was of some import. In actual fact, it's probably just that it's new. And he didn't have a place in mind to put it. But,
Yes. The heart, in fact, probably looks very strange. The vampire heart would.
no, this isn't the vampire heart.
Isn't it?
No, this is the one that Beatrice sent to him.
Oh.
Oh, I figured the vampire heart is tucked away in a hidden safe somewhere.
Yes.
With all of his valuables rather than his sentimentals and experiments.
Yes.
Possibly behind the dogs.
Possibly behind the dogs. Possibly where... Yeah, he's probably coming back to write his notes and keeping it somewhere safer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the grotesque flower of heart is not something Christian wants to look at.
Yeah.
Really. So he's going to head on out and try and get hold of the Tremere, if they shall be kind enough to invite him to the chantry.
Oh, they're not going to invite him to the chantry.
Or somewhere else.
Yeah.
Floki's been to the damn chantry.
No.
Yes, he has.
He thinks he has. He's been to the Regent's house. Like I said, he thinks he has.
Okay. Well, wherever they're going to invite him.
Yeah.
Someone that I'm sure they'll say is a chantry that isn't.
No, nobody said it was the chantry. Loki just came to conclusions
Okay.
because he saw the Regent going in.
Fair enough. Well, anyway, Christian's off to find the Tremere and be invited to wherever they decide to pretend is where they live. And with that, the scene draws to. Oh, he's going out with one glove on. So I have to remember that. That'll be interesting. Yes, so with that, the scene will draw to a close.